Before we speak about what is called entering the stream, it is important to set one thing clear. This is not a matter of belief. It is not a religious idea. And it is not something to be accepted because it appears in scriptures. What is being referred to here is a real condition of the mind, a moment when the clinging to me and mine begins to loosen by itself. This cannot be understood through thinking alone, and it cannot be borrowed from books. It must be directly seen. When it is seen, the mind knows for itself, without needing confirmation from anyone else. What I will share is not an interpretation of text, but an explanation that comes from direct experience. Because without knowing it thoroughly, it cannot truly be explained to others. What is being referred to here as entering the stream is not a matter of belief. It is an actual condition of the mind, the point where clinging to me and mine begins to loosen and fall away. So what kind of condition is called entering the stream? This is a simple matter. I have gone through this entire process myself, from the beginning through every stage to the end. Once it is directly seen, the mind knows it all and sees it all. One must know it thoroughly, because without knowing it completely, it cannot be taught to others. My explanation of entering the stream is not based on scriptures. What is found in the text is only the outer shell. What is real must be explained from direct experience. Ordinarily, the mind clings to mental formations completely, as if it were sending out 100 strands of attachment, holding on 100%. This is only an analogy, used to make it easier to see. But when one listens to the essence of the teaching and quickly grasps the principle, when understanding arises and something opens up within, the mind begins to release its grip. Some of those strands of attachment start to break away. When roughly 20 of those strands have fallen away, this is what is meant by entering the stream. The analogy shows that what was once tightly bound begins to loosen. From 100 strands, only 80 remain. The tension eases. The force of clinging weakens. This is the beginning of release. When part of that clinging falls away, a feeling of lightness and openness appears, like having carried a heavy burden for a long time and suddenly setting part of it down. When 20% of the weight is gone, the mind feels lighter and more open. This sense of lightness and openness is a key characteristic of the mind beginning to loosen from mental formations. Some people may have tears, but tears are not the main point. The essential point is the lightness and the openness. This is what is meant by entering the stream, the point where clinging starts to fall away. The condition that is referred to as entering the stream is when the mind begins to loosen from mental formations and starts to see thought itself. Some people, upon seeing thought for the first time, may find tears arising. Seeing thought can bring a sudden flash of understanding, a moment of insight where it becomes clear that everything in this world is constructed by thought. It is then seen that the mental element is the one that gives value and meaning to form. When this is seen, the mind naturally fixes its attention on the mental element alone and no longer takes form as its reference. When this insight into thought arises, understanding follows that thought is the one assigning value and meaning to form. Just as I have explained, the body itself does not say that it is a body or a human being. It is thought that labels it as arms and legs, as me, as a human being, as male or female, as someone's child, as a person with a name and a family. Thought is the one giving meaning to everything. When it is clearly seen that thought itself is what creates the entire story and gives meaning to form, the former understanding that one is a human being collapses completely. In a single instant, there is openness and lightness, as if floating. The sense of being a person is dismantled. At that point, form is no longer taken as real, leaving only the mental element. There is no form there, only the mental element remains. From there, the mind continues to attend closely to thought, and understanding becomes clearer and more refined. At this stage, I sometimes use an analogy of 20 to 25%, not as an actual measurement, but simply to make it easier to understand. When approximately 25 strands of the clinging that the mind once sent out to grasp mental formations have fallen away, this is what is meant by entering the stream. Whether 24 strands have fallen away or one is just about to reach 25, it is still called entering the stream. Once this point is reached, there is no possibility of returning to the previous way of clinging again. To make this clearer, I will use an analogy. Water that flows from a river moves into a bay and then out into the ocean. At the moment we fall into the water, whether intentionally or unintentionally, once we are in, the current carries us along on its own. From the upper reaches, the water flows into the bay and then out into the ocean. The moment of falling into the water is what is meant by entering the stream. Once carried along, the flow continues all the way to the end. In that sense, it is already complete from the moment one has fallen into the water. However, flowing all the way to the ocean takes time. From the first moment of falling in, the current carries us forward by itself. Time is required to pass through the bay and eventually reach the open ocean. This shows that the process has already begun and cannot reverse, even though moving through the entire process still takes time. The closer the flow comes to the bay, the closer it is to reaching the ocean. Once the water reaches the bay, there is no longer any concern, because it will inevitably flow out into the ocean. This is the nature of what is meant by entering the stream. Let me explain it in another way. Suppose we intend to go to London. We try many ways: walking, running, riding a bicycle, or whatever method we choose. But we do not actually know where London is. Then one day, we come upon a road with a clear sign that says, "This way to London." At that moment, all doubt disappears. This is what is meant by entering the stream, discovering the starting point that truly leads to the destination. Once the path is seen, uncertainty falls away. It is known with certainty that arrival will happen. Whether one moves quickly or slowly, walks or runs, is only a matter of time. In the same way, when the mind begins to loosen from clinging to name and form, it releases form first, leaving only the mental element. From there, the mind starts to examine the mental element itself, seeing where it comes from. When it is seen that even the mental element has no inherent existence, refinement deepens. More and more strands of clinging continue to fall away, step by step, until it becomes clear that both knowing and thinking function on their own. When clinging releases completely, the process comes to an end. This is what entering the stream means, in the sense of this process. The movement into a way where arising no longer takes place in the old way. At that point, clear insight arises that nothing is us at all. In this world, there are only form and mental phenomena, nothing more than that. So what have we been searching for? The sound that is being spoken functions on its own, appearing and dissolving on its own. Knowing knows on its own. There is no one who is the knower. Form and name have no value in themselves. They are merely instruments through which we come to recognize what we truly are, the originating element. This world has nothing real in it. There are only form and mental phenomena, which are illusory, like masks we put on to play roles, like inhabiting a robot with a program that performs different functions. We wear masks as fathers and mothers, as good people and bad people, as rich and poor, as practitioners who walk, sit, and seek. Even the calm gained through practice is still an emotion, a result produced by the program at work, not something that truly exists in itself. Emotional calm is not the calm of the pure element. The pure element is calm by its own nature, without needing to be made calm, without needing to be stilled, without needing to be sought. Yet we become lost in clinging to calm as an emotion, attached to states of feeling. And so the process of fabrication continues, because calm itself is also an emotion, a form of mental construction, just the same. Suffering is a fabrication that we ourselves construct. The suffering we fabricate arises from things not being as we think or expect them to be. When reality does not match what is thought or imagined, an emotion of suffering appears, and that emotion itself is a fabrication. Yet we habitually continue fabricating and assigning value and meaning, saying, I am suffering. Assuming there is someone who suffers, and allowing the process of knowing to cling to an emotion. All of this is the functioning of the mental element, giving value and meaning to something that does not truly exist, until it appears as if it were real. We are playing inside a theater, wearing masks and performing roles that have no real existence. We play the roles of father, mother, child, husband, and wife. We play the role of making a living. We play the roles of happiness and suffering, and then declare, this is suffering, this is happiness. When we listen to the essence of the teaching and awaken inwardly, it begins to be seen that sound, thought, mental images, memory, emotions of happiness and suffering, and even the sense of knowing itself are all fabrications. Then the question naturally arises, what in all of this is actually us? When it is clearly seen that nature knows on its own and hears on its own, the sense of me disappears right there. This is the point where the process of knowing no longer clings to emotion. When this is seen, the mind releases. It continues to release until all the strands of clinging that once bound it snap completely. With that release, it is discovered that what we truly are is the pure element, not a human being. Everything that was once clung to is revealed to be only form and name, like a theater, like a virtual world, similar to wearing a VR headset and entering a constructed reality. When the headset is removed, it becomes clear that none of it ever truly existed. For this reason, the sages point out that form and name are non-self, without any inherent entity. Live in this world, but do not be foolishly burdened by suffering, and do not foolishly cling to anything. Remain light and at ease, with clear knowing that suffering has no real entity of its own. If you're interested in these teachings on awakening, mind observation, and transcending suffering through wisdom, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your insights in the comments, provide productive feedback, and if you find this content valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.